What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lasser Cast, where me and my good friend Danny Torkel, Dr. Zayas God, review horror movies and streaming shows. There is a movie that just dropped in theaters that we were anticipating. It's a sequel. We had mixed feelings about the original, and now we're going to see if Danny and I feel the same way about The Black Phone 2. So, Danny, welcome.
What's going on? This has been a crazy 2 week stretch for me in terms of the channel and just going around doing a bunch of fun things. I'm wearing my Brooklyn Horror Film Festival t-shirt that I got. I also got the beanie hat over there, but it's a little warm in my room. Uh, right now, Brooklyn Horror Film Festival is going on. I was
Right.
there last Thursday for Tina Romero's Queens of the Dead, which was the opening night movie, which was so much fun. I had an absolute blast with that movie. I posted a short review of that on the channel. I posted the Q&A from Tina Romero and the cast of that movie.
Okay.
I was there Saturday for one of my all-time favorite movies, Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, in which Ernest Dickerson was there to receive the Leviathan Award, like a Lifetime Achievement Award. And then he did a Q&A. That's up on the channel as well. Uh, I'm going tonight. Charlotte and I are going for final exam trivia in Brooklyn. It's the one time a year I could actually bring Charlotte to trivia because it's held in a beer garden slash restaurant instead of a just a bar where obviously 21 and over. So she's good to go for tonight. And then I have two more movies on Wednesday and Thursday. Uh, I'm seeing what I'm hoping is going to be a really fun Exorcist 2 documentary called Borman and the Devil on Wednesday night. And then I'm seeing the new Brian Fuller, Mads Mikkelsen movie, Dust Bunny, on Thursday. So you can expect reviews of that. I've just done all the stuff I usually do at the end of the video. Now, figured I'm wearing the shirt. But yeah, you asked what's going on. A lot. I had all the Comic Con footage from last week. Uh, Recorded a whole bunch of cast crew Q&As. Did some I did like my merch breakdown review from Comic-Con, which was a great few days, and now Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. So I'm really happy that after Thursday things calmed down a little bit, and then I could just focus on like watching horror movies normally, like Halloween. The Talamasca starts on AMC. Uh, yeah. So yeah, Black Phone 2. Somehow I managed to fit that in Saturday morning. Charlotte and I saw it, and uh, did you take Pepper to see it?
No, I just just make
Okay. So yeah,
yeah,
just to recap, I really liked the Black Phone, and you were kind of in the middle. I don't think you didn't like it at all, but I think
right,
you were just kind of like mixed on it. Whereas I genuinely thought it was really, really good.
right.
And so I'm interested. Black Phone 2, better or worse for you than the first one?
Oh, definitely better. Definitely better.
Okay.
I think the first time around people were raving about the Black Phone so much. And I thought about the combination, which is based on a Joe Hill short story in one of his collections. It's written by C. Robert Cargill, who I have told him, and we've interacted. I've told him that he is a ghost car for me. He mentioned that term, in one of his book. He hosts a lot of author book readings at Book People in Austin, and he mentioned this term ghost car, which is the idea of like it's a person who is doing the thing that you're passionate about, like they're one of your heroes, and you maybe even follow in their footsteps, like they're an inspiration for you. And I told Cargill that he is a ghost car for me, you know, and so that's a big deal. Joe Hill is one of my favorite authors. Cargill, I just told you, and then Scott Derrickson has a really good track record for me. There are Scott Derrickson movies that people don't like that I do like, And so I was like really excited about this one, and then I just felt like it didn't have those moments for me where I got really excited, where I was like, okay, I want to see this again. I want to see this particular scene. Now, this movie, I could say otherwise. And I think what makes a big difference for this movie is this isn't based on a Joe Hill short story anymore. This is written just by C. Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson. It's like their take, their movie. And I liked this movie a lot better than the first one.
I think I'm kind of in the middle. I think because I really liked the first movie, uh, there's aspects of the second movie that I really, really enjoyed. Charlotte, for one, I think loved it. Um, Charlotte does this thing where she watches a horror movie where she covers her ears. She doesn't cover her eyes. She covers her ears so that she doesn't get like the loud jump scare moments don't like get her. And she was
Smart.
sitting in the movie theater, like leaning close to me, fingers near the ears for most of this. And when the movie ended, she told me, she was like, yeah, I thought, and these are her words, I thought it was really scary. I really loved it. For me, I didn't think the scare moments hit as hard in this movie. There were a couple like crazy like gore moments that I was like, whoa, we're not expecting that. Um, I didn't think the scares hit hard, but I
Yeah,
just rewatched the first movie,
yeah,
and what I love about the first movie carries over to this movie, and that is whether it's Joe Hill's characters or whether it's Cargill and Derrickson's writing and direction of these characters, they picked two incredible child actors who have some of the greatest kid chemistry I've seen in decades. Like it reminds me of, and it's weird that the setting of the movie, the first one is I think 78, this movie is 82, because it's 3 years later, but they have the chemistry of the kids in the movies that we grew up watching.
yeah.
You know, it's very, you know, obviously the kids in ET were younger, but they have that like, you know, vibe of like older brother, younger sister,
Right.
talking about, of course, you know, Mason Timms, Madeline McGraw are so good together. You totally buy them as brother and sister.
Absolutely.
Uh, and so for me, even though it's a horror movie, even though I didn't think it had the best scare moments, even though I was getting a kick out of the homages that they were making to other movies. Um, you know, a lot has been made in the marketing about the of this movie that they basically turned the grabber into Freddy Krueger, and they
Right.
basically made this like a Nightmare on Elm Street type movie, and that's
Right.
well and good. But the heart of this movie and the heart of this, I guess, you know, two movies, is that a franchise yet? Or the heart of these movies is those two leads, Finn and Gwen, Mason Timms, Madeline McGraw, and they fucking killed it again. So, you know, 2 hours, very easily. I could have walked out of this movie being like, my God, why on earth was this a 2 hour movie instead of an hour and 45? I didn't think that. Yeah, could it have been a little shorter? Sure. Was I bored ever? No. Because in the down moments, you get to just be with these two characters. And I like the some of the characters that they added around them, I thought were good, and they kind of moved the plot along. And they
Yeah.
made it different enough from the first movie that I thought it was uh a very good companion piece. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be one of those things where if and when there is a Black Phone 3, I'm going to sit there and be like, man, I don't know which one I like better. For you, it's easy because I liked the first one a lot more than you did.
Right.
For me, it's going to be like, boy, I don't really know. I really like the first one, and I really like the second one. But yeah, Derrickson as a director, I feel like there's always at least one moment in every one of his horror movies that is just like a holy shit. Exorcism of Emily Rose. It's the famous jump scare moment of like the guy wakes up in bed, pan the camera, and there's like Emily on the floor contorted. Fucking one of the scariest moments I ever saw in a movie.
Right.
Rest of the movie, give or take. Um, I just watched Sinister with Charlotte. First time I've rewatched Sinister since the first and only time I ever watched it. She loved it. The jump scares still hit. The lawnmower scene still all timer.
Right.
Uh, and I just rewatched The Black Phone, and I think there's a few great moments in that movie. So this movie does a couple of those scenes really well. Yeah, I just think that they're well made horror movies, and they appeal, or they can appeal to mass audiences because it has like that Stranger Things vibe with the kids. It's got like the yeah, oh my god,
You okay?
I just watched my cat try to leap up to the top of one of my bookshelves, struggle, and decide I can't do it, so I'll just knock everything off. And so that was the noise you just heard.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Well,
like you have the kids, so it's got that Stranger Things early '80s Amblin vibe to it. It's got what now after two movies I think is a pretty, you know, uh, I don't know if the Grabber is icon status yet, but he's a known quantity of serial killer, supernatural slasher type killer. Um, yeah, I think that this could end up being, when all is said and done, like a pretty big franchise for them.
yeah, yeah. So with Scott Derrickson, right? People might forget, but he also directed Doctor Strange. Cargill wrote that with him. Um, he did The Day the Earth Stood Still, which back in the day I wrote for a website called Bloody Good Horror, and they had a really good podcast. And I remember writing that I really liked that movie, and then they all just hated that movie. But I liked The Day the Earth Stood Still, the Keanu Reeves version. I know he's made other movies as well. I think that they made The Gorge together, or The Gulp, or whatever the
That's
fuck
the
that movie is.
Apple Plus movie. I heard that was great, and I still haven't watched it yet because I always forget that we actually do have Apple Plus.
Nice.
It's one of those
Yeah,
things where like Athena wanted to watch one thing, so we got it, and we never watch it now. But
right.
yeah, I do need to check out The Gorge.
Yeah, and so like I know he's made even more movies beyond that too. But when you brought up the key movie here, you brought up Sinister, which a couple years ago at this point they were talking about how like Sinister is scientifically proven to be the scariest movie ever made, and I'm not sure exactly what criteria they used for that, but that's the implication is that scientifically Sinister is the scariest movie ever made,
I
and
think
so
it's like I think they like literally track people's heart rates. Like the gym that I go to, I go to a gym, Orange Theory, that requires you to wear a heart rate monitor, and like as you're working out, your heart rate is supposed to like go up, from like the green zone to the orange zone, and then there's like the red zone where you're pushing it too much, so pull it back a little bit. And it's like I think what they had like audiences wearing something similar to that, and the jump scares in Sinister registered the highest like heart rates, or people's heart rates got elevated the fastest during Sinister. And
okay,
I just rewatched it, and there's parts of that movie that I don't particularly love, namely like the Ghost Children. I'm not a fan of the Ghost Children, but
yeah.
anytime Ethan Hawke is watching like a Super 8 film and he's watching those videos and Bagul is around, it is creepy as all hell.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, one thing about Cargill, that I'll say, and it'd be funny if he ever ends up watching this video, but he kind of digs himself a lot, right? And so like, he was plugging the Gorge the other time when he was doing a book reading. He was hosting a book reading event, and then he was like kind of proud of the fact that Sinister introduced the idea of like calling someone, doing a video call with like an expert. They're like, oh, this is the first time they did that in a movie, calling an expert about something, having a video call with them. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's something to brag about, I don't know if I like that trope that much, but that's Sinister. The thing about Sinister, you already kind of referenced, you said it's like, Ethan Hawke watching this 8mm footage. And that's what is such a major, major part of this movie, are these dream sequences where Gwen, you can tell she's dreaming because all of a sudden it has this kind of slowed down 8mm effect. And it feels very, very much like Sinister. And it's not used just once or twice, it's used throughout the movie. And those sequences are the best parts of the movie. We have these scenes where she's kind of having visions of what happened to these kids. That's kind of how the movie starts off. These kids that are at this camp. And it's disturbing. It is like Sinister level disturbing. There's some stuff that maybe is even more disturbing than what happens in Sinister in these initial shots. But then it becomes, you said Stranger Things, it becomes kind of like Vecna terrorizing people in Stranger Things, where the grabber is now terrorizing Gwen or Finny, or Finn in those sequences, those dream sequences. Now, one thing I'm going to say is that I love Ethan Hawke. I love Ethan Hawke as an actor. There's YouTube videos of him being interviewed where he's like talking about art, filmmaking and stuff. And he just sounds like, man, he fucking gets it. And he's passionate and he's cool. Yeah. Right. And I think he's a great actor. There's something, and I realize this too, there's something so effective about a villain that is like soft spoken, not where they're talking in whisper, but where it's just like this, like monotone, like this. And that's the way the grabber talks. That's like Ethan Hawke doing that. And I just fucking love that. Like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when he's on the outside of the payphone booth and he's talking to Finn. And it's just this sort of like real matter of fact, monotone voice. And to me, that's much more effective than someone kind of growling when they're talking, or if they're talking, it comes some kind of whisper. Like that monotone, that's the scariest, because it's like, I'm in control. I'm doing this. And I just fucking love that so much. Like, we should talk about the structure of this movie and how it's different from the original, because they could have easily done another scenario where like maybe the grabber or someone working with the grabber kidnaps Finn, and then he's presented with a black phone again, and he has to talk to these dead spirits of like more kids that were murdered or something like that. But they switch it up. They make it this sort of like redemption arc for the mother and for like these kids that were connected to the grabber. It's all about like sort of like uncovering the truth and letting dead souls find peace. That's what this whole movie is about. And by doing that, the main characters are put in peril because this character has essentially escaped from hell. Now, before you take over and stuff, I just want to bring up this one point before I forget it. I really, really fucking love this part when the grabber talks about hell and what it does to you. He said that basically hell just gets rid of everything else, and all that's left is like the sin, the bad part of you. And I really, really like that concept of like just removing the humanity from someone, just only their evil essence exists. And we should talk about, in general, after we talk about the structure, we should talk about how big religion is in this movie as well.
I was just thinking that, because like I'm probably the least religious person that I know, and a lot of times, well, but like when a movie tries to infuse religion, very often it for me it could be like a detractor. But I feel like they do such a good job in, and that is something that they carried over from the first movie, because like Gwen prays to Jesus openly in the first movie, and I love that, like it's like part of her thing is like she thinks she's asking Jesus for help, and it's not a movie that at all feels like it's forcing religion on you. And obviously if you're going with the idea that the killer is literally coming out of hell to, haunt you in your dreams, very Nightmare on Elm Street, then yeah, you kind of need that religious aspect of it.
Yeah.
In terms of the structure, like, yeah, I love the use of the grainy, like 8 mm style footage for the dream sequences. I think it does such a good job of like letting you as the audience know what is what without, and it never tricks you. It never like tries to trick you, but also like again, like I was talking to somebody who was like, oh, I don't know, I don't really like that they're turning the grabber into this like supernatural villain. I'm like, well, in the first movie, ghost kids literally help Finney kill him. Like it's a movie that is deeply rooted in supernatural. Like the sister has visions in her dreams of kids getting kidnapped, and like the cops go to this like little girl and are like, can you help us with our investigation? So it's like this
Right.
is from the first movie, it's deeply rooted in supernatural. I'm so glad they went in this direction. um and yes, there are a lot of tie-ins to Nightmare on Elm Street. Like there's that one scene where he's going after Gwen, and like the ovens all open up and the flames come out of them, and I was like, that is like right out of the boiler room in the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
But like cool. Like it's like they're not, I don't think like Cargill and Derrickson are like shying away from the fact that they are doing something similar. And like, look, they made a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street and it was ass. So if this is like the best Nightmare on Elm Street type movie we get, I'm down with it. I like that idea. And the
Yeah.
grabber again is a really cool villain. The way that the mask works and the different parts, half the time you're looking at Ethan Hawke's face and the bottom part is covered. The other part you're looking at the mask, but his fleshy jaw is uncovered. I love that.
Yeah.
And what you said, like the idea of like keeping this, rescuing the souls, and him being able to be alive, out from hell by using those lost souls as like his gateway back. And
Yeah.
I also just the idea that like while Gwen is a crucial part of the first movie, it's about Finney. He's kidnapped. He's using the black phone. He's talking to all the ghost kids. He's building up like each ghost kid is giving him something that he will then use to defeat the grabber. This
Right.
movie, Finn is still getting calls on the black phone. I like that even before the grabber comes back, they establish that like he gets calls and they could be like other ghost kids who want him to help, but he's just like, I have to try to move on. And but this movie is Gwen's movie, and it's like her being haunted in her dreams by these
Yeah.
kids, by her mother. um I like the fact that they tied that whole thing back with the mom, and how like the dad and the whole family was so affected by the mom's suicide. And then we obviously, well, spoilers, I guess, since we're doing our deep dive about the movie, but like spoiler alert, like the mom doesn't commit suicide. She actually knows the grabber from this time at this Christian youth camp. We find out that the grabber has been killing kids for generations. I really like that they built this world out so much. I love that
Yeah.
they changed the setting from like suburban Colorado to like now it's like a Shining esque, winter blizzard scape.
Right.
Um, I just every part that they either built off of or expanded on from the first movie, I thought they did such a good job of.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought The Shining, Danny, because that's the thing, right? Imagine being the son of Stephen King. Like Stephen King is like the author of our time. He's the horror author of our time. And then you're his son and you go to write horror stories yourself. Now, like it's weird because you can reference your dad's stuff and you might even have like a crossover in your mind of your stuff and your dad's stuff. But then just by osmosis, like Stephen King's influence is in everything. We mentioned Stranger Things. Stephen King's fucking influence is all over that. I mean, there's a ton of things you already mentioned, but The Shining, I'm really glad that you brought that up because this also reminded me of Doctor Sleep too.
Yeah.
Because like, here's a key thing. It's like because of who Finn and Gwen are, they're able to experience this kind of supernatural shit. Like stuff happens to other characters, like physically, but I think it's because Finn and Gwen are there. And so it's kind of like with Stephen King stuff where the people have the shining or they have this special gift where it's like they glow. They're like those people that the whatever the fuck, the cult of the knot or whatever from Doctor Sleep. The true knot, right. Like they hunt those people that have that kind of that vibe, that give off this special kind of vibe. You know, they take their mist or their vapor or whatever the fuck it is. And I think that Joe Hill has that in his story. And I think that Cargill and Derrickson probably saw that and they're like, okay, let's run with this. It's like because of them being there, because of them being at this summer camp, the way that like they're at the Overlook at the end of the Doctor Sleep movie, it's like they're turning this stuff on. So like they're at this hotel or this summer camp. Now we're seeing these dead kids like much more than we saw them before. They're at this summer camp, and then all of a sudden the grabber is around and he's doing all this kind of shit. So it's like because of their power inside, it's making this shit like they're lighting it up, you know? And I just fucking love that. Like I can't remember if it's in a Joe Hill book or if it's in a Stephen King book, but there's a map of like all this kind of crazy kind of dreamland stuff, and there is overlap. There is overlap between like stuff that Stephen King has made and then stuff that Joe Hill has made. So it's like the father and son, at least one of them intentionally wants their shit to cross over. And I just, that's my fucking sweet spot, man. That's my fucking like, you know, yeah, you get ready for the money shot right there. Just be like, look at this map, you know? And so, like I love that Derrickson and Cargill were able to take that and run with it. And then there's just stuff that's like pervasive in Stephen King work that just automatically comes into this. Like you have this father who's the alcoholic father. You have these young kids taking on this supernatural entity because they have no choice. They have to do this, you know? And I think we should talk about the fact that the father goes through like a redemption arc in this movie too. That actor, what's that fucking actor's name? Plays his dad?
Jeremy Davies.
Yeah.
Jeremy Davies.
I mean, you're gonna remember him from Lost, but he's in a ton of shit. He's in fucking Saving Private Ryan. He's that kind of cowardly guy that gets the other guys killed.
He always reminded me, and maybe it's because we've covered like, you know, obviously so much Flanagan stuff, but he always reminded me of Henry Thomas. And they have that like very similar look to them. Except in these movies where he has that like ridiculous Joe Dirt like mullet to him. But yeah, Jeremy Davies he's been like a character actor for 25, 30 years now. I remember him first in Saving Private Ryan, obviously Lost, etc. But yeah, I like the redemption arc for him, and I feel like it's, you know, he was a real, obviously alcoholic, abusive person, but then, you know, it wasn't like, or at least I kind of took it that he wasn't that until the mom died. And
Right.
you see in this movie how he blamed himself for his wife dying. In the first movie, even when he's abusive to Gwen, he's, you know, the whole like, my dreams are just a dream, and her screaming it out at him. He obviously, like, I'm not trying to like redeem the abusive aspect of him, but he's looking at it from the like, this is what killed my wife, and I don't want my young daughter to be driven to the same madness. And if I have to beat that out of her while he's obviously, punishing himself with the alcoholism, it you kind of get that idea. And what I really liked in this movie is that yes, they redeem the dad a little bit, but that they don't give the family. It's not like a oh, we love you, dad kind of thing, where it's like, no, like, we understand why you are the way you are. We understand why you were the way you were, but you were
Yeah.
still an alcoholic, abusive piece of shit. So, like,
Right.
you're going to have to earn back this love and this trust from us, your children, even at the very end. Like, there's no like group hug, I love you moment. It's like okay, we understand. Like, we're sorry that this happened to you. We're sorry that you had to find your wife like this, our mother. But like, you better like, get that 3-year chip and keep. And to go back to Stephen King and Doctor Sleep, that is one of the main aspects of Danny in Doctor Sleep is the whole alcoholic redemption arc.
Right.
So obviously The Shining as well, the idea of Jack is a recovering alcoholic, and one of the things that the Overlook does to lure him back is Lloyd at the bar and all the free booze.
Right.
So uh I like that there's that one scene where the kids leave and then he like sees a commercial for like I think it's beer or some
It
kind
is.
of liquor, and he's like, and you're sitting there in the audience and you're going, oh come on, no. And then
Right.
it just motivates him to like, oh no, I gotta get the fuck out of the house, and I'm
Right.
gonna go do something to try to like help my kids out. And that was nice. I like that. But I also like that they didn't cheapen. I think that the kids, Finn and Gwen, their reaction to the father was genuine as well. Like, it wasn't like oh yay, daddy's back. I feel like that's how in the real world how you deal with like an alcoholic, abusive parent who is trying to redeem themselves is a very slow process.
Right. And it's funny because I mean Joe Hill had an alcoholic father, right? Stephen King was an alcoholic. And so, I just eat this shit up. It did kind of remind me of Flanagan. And I think that Derrickson is similar to Flanagan in certain ways. I mean, obviously, like emotion is a big thing. There's also like this very, I don't know the best way to put it, but like there's like always like kind of like a clean, sharp look to their films to where it like the cinematography is always great. And you can tell there's a lot of thought put into the lighting and all that kind of stuff. It's not just like this sort of like jumbled, quick, over the top thing. It just always looks great, and they always they err on the serious side, but then they also have no problem like getting super gory and intense. They don't. That's not like their trade. Like that's not their main thing is to be gory and intense, but they don't shy away from those moments. Flanagan or Derrickson. But
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going with these comparisons, especially like with Shining, Doctor Sleep, Stephen King, Joe Hill.
Well,
Like,
just before I forget, like just the idea of, Danny watched his father fall to alcoholism and then becomes an alcoholic. Finn, as like a high school junior, senior, is like quickly devolving into a pothead. His sister calls him out on it. I love the scene where she's like, I'm not narking. He knows. I'm just, he's just, the father is like ignoring the problem because he doesn't want to like stir up the abusive like past. And so there's that aspect of like the son following in the footsteps of the problematic tendencies of the father. Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that a lot. I can see those comparisons a ton.
yeah, and I mean, just like kind of running with those comparisons even further. Like we have this character they introduced in this movie, Mondo, who he himself is like going through a redemption arc too because he's been in prison. He has all those tattoos and stuff on him. Like obviously he made some poor choices in the past, but like he's made it his life his life's work to find these missing kids, like to find the remains of these missing kids. And so he is in charge of this camp now, and he kind of almost fills that role of what's Scatman Crothers, what's his name?
Doc
The Doc. Yeah, yeah.
Halloran, yeah.
Doc Halloran. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like he kind of fills that role a little bit, and there is a part where it's like, oh, he's gonna die now because the grabber is going after him. I mean, and like I just really enjoyed his character. He was my favorite out of the new characters that were introduced. It's a very small cast because
Yeah.
it's got that like The Thing, Hateful Eight kind of vibe, The Shining kind of vibe, where it's like we're in this isolated, cold area. So there's only a handful of people that we're dealing with at a time. I think that was a great choice. But good.
Oh no, we're talking spoilers. I really liked Mondo, and I think Damian Bashir is a great actor. Should have died. I think there is the whole. One of my biggest issues with the movie, from just not even a negative, but one of like the bugaboos I had about Black Phone 2, nobody died. There's 3 dead children that were killed 30 years ago, who we're trying to find them. I felt like by not killing a single new character, you kind of remove the stakes a little bit, especially when it felt like jumping into the water of an ice lake was just a thing that anyone could do. And how many movies have we seen where like somebody falls into an ice lake and then they can't find the hole and they end up drowning underneath, right?
Yeah.
I think like Omen 2, which we covered when we were doing all the Omen movies, has like an ice skating scene where there's a moment like that. And Mondo goes in the ice. Gwen goes in the ice. The father just jumps into the ice. And I'm like, nobody's getting what is it? Hypothermia. Nobody's getting hypothermia here. Nobody. It's 1982. There's no electric blankets. What are we doing here?
Yes.
So I thought that would have made the grabber a more iconic kind of villain if he's able to, by haunting Gwen and Finn, he's able to take the lives of those around him. I mean, in the first movie, we are introduced to several children who end up being killed off screen by the grabber. The baseball boy at the beginning of the movie, he gets killed. Robin, by the way, did you notice? I didn't realize this until way after when I got home and I was on IMDb. The actor, the kid who plays Ernesto, is the same kid who played Robin in the first movie.
Oh, I did not notice that. No.
Yeah. Awesome. I thought that was a really cute thing that like he's playing his own brother.
Right.
That was good. But Robin was a cool character in the first movie. He gets killed by the grabber. We get like a flashback to another kid who gets killed by the grabber. So it's like the fact that like they have these Barb and her husband, like I genuinely thought when we met them, oh, fodder. Like like the horror movie guy in me was like, oh, they're only here for the grabber to kill these people. Like to use like some supernatural way of killing them. And I thought it just kind of took, when the movie was over, I just kind of felt like, oh, like how effective really is the grabber if, with all this supernatural, like he's even like Freddy Krueger in the, he even does like that moment where he taunts Gwen and he's like, have you ever thought about what happens if you die in your dream? And she's like, yeah, I'll just wake up. And he's like, are you sure? And it's like, and I'm like, okay, well, he cuts out the ice and Mondo falls in. And I'm like, oh, okay, Mondo's gonna drown. He's an older man. He maybe they pull him out and his heart stops. And maybe Mustang has to take over the camp. You know, maybe this guy and his wife who are there and they're like yelling at Gwen for her, and her heathen mouth. Uh, they're probably going to get slashed up and killed while the grabber's ice skating around like it's the movie Curtains. And yeah, I was a little taken aback that none of these characters died. I thought like the movie missed a chance to like, because to your point, like Mondo is a really good character, and sometimes when you kill one of those characters, it makes the stakes of the movie all the more. Like Doc Halloran spends the entire movie of The Shining trying to get back to the Overlook, walks in and gets an axe to the chest almost immediately.
Yeah.
Which, again, not in the book. Stephen King hated that. A lot of us hated that. But like, it really drives home how dangerous Jack is in The Shining.
Right.
So I thought like they could have gotten rid of some of those, even though it is a small cast, they could have like killed a few of those characters off.
See, and
And
I think that like if it was based directly on a Joe Hill adaptation, that would have happened, right? But I think that Cargill and Derrickson, both who like express their political views on like social media pretty frequently, I think they were ultimately going for like a much more optimistic thing, especially when you see the end scene where they get I mean, we're spoiling this whole movie, where they get a phone call from their dead mother, and she's basically like, I'm okay, like I'm in heaven, everything's fine, like you did a good job. Like I thought that was like a little over top. If I had one complaint, it would be that. Otherwise, like I really didn't have things to nitpick with this movie, but I thought that was a little over the top. And one thing I wanted to say about Cargill, and I think this is true for Derrickson as well, but I used to listen to a Cargill podcast called Ride Along, where he talked about writing every week, and I kind of got thrown for a loop because it turns out he's like a Christian and like he like a believer, like a true believer, and everything that he says and does, he kind of seems more like us, where we're kind of like skeptical and we don't necessarily believe in religion, but no, he's Christian, and I think that this movie kind of wears Christianity on its sleeves. I mean, I think that like we're talking about Mondo. There's one fucking shot where he's like giving this speech about his life, and there's just this glowing cross right in the center of the frame, right there. So I felt like they're going for a more optimistic take, and therefore it's more optimistic than the first movie. There's
I
scenes in
think
this movie. Go ahead.
I think the other thing is in terms of the Christianity element of it is they're not preaching it. They're
Right.
it feels like, and I've always said this as a you know uh borderline atheistic person who really doesn't involve religion in his life. I love Jesus. I think that the problem isn't Jesus. The problem is the people that use Jesus's name and then basically go about doing everything the opposite way.
Correct.
And this movie, the Christianity in this movie feels like the Christianity I would like to see more of in the world, where it's like you're the ideas of Jesus are being followed, and the people in the movie, the Christians in the movie are good people doing good things instead of just kind of preaching the word of the Lord from their $1 billion estate, and then working to take everybody's rights away from them,
Right.
just like Jesus would do.
Right.
So I feel like this is the type of religion in a movie where I don't feel like I was being preached at. I don't feel like as a non-Christian I was, it's going to turn me off to this movie. Like, oh well, I don't, this isn't a movie for me. This isn't like from the Angel Production Company, the production company that only produces like Christian faith movies.
Oh, no.
I so I appreciated that aspect of it where it's like, yeah, like it's 1982, it's Colorado, and it's a Christian youth camp. So they are probably going to have religion play a big part of this movie. And they did it in a way that I was like really cool with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it works and it is optimistic by the end of the movie, but it gets pretty brutal and disturbing towards the second act. Like what's really cool is there's this one sequence where Gwen has a dream at the summer camp, and it is going back to what I said before, where I feel like them being at the summer camp makes everything worse. Like her dreams are worse at the summer camp. And it's just this great sequence where they're like, oh, no, no, we're just going to keep going and we're going to just make this more and more intense. Like we're gonna take this little boy whose head we've already kind of shown split in half, and we've shown his head kind of splitting open against the ice in these dreams. Now we're gonna show the grabber break a window, cut off half the kid's face, and it's gonna be twitching on the floor. I mean, there was tons of shit. The best jump scare in the movie for me is when she looks under the bed and there's this kind of mangled corpse of the kid at first. You kind of don't even know exactly what you see because it's so quick. But I thought that was the best jump scare in the movie. Like, there are some sequences where I was like, yes, yes, they are trying. They are going hard. Like, my favorite one is you mentioned the fire one, which that one is good. But my favorite one is when her arm gets cut, when Gwen's arm gets cut, and then the fucking grabber is just like spinning around in the payphone booth and doing all this crazy stuff to her. And then she's like spinning in the real world and her blood is just flicking at everything. That was my favorite. That might have been my favorite part of the movie. Was that part?
I wish the trailer didn't spoil that scene.
Yeah.
Because this movie was heavily marketed. As somebody who spends a lot of time on YouTube, YouTube, every YouTube commercial, I feel like for the last month has been a Black Phone ad. I saw the Black Phone trailer in the movie theater several times, and that scene was prominent in the trailers. And I feel like that's a scene that, had I not seen it probably 13 times walking into the movie, I would have been like, holy shit. And instead, it just kind of felt like another scene in the movie, which again was fine. But yeah, I wish the trailer hadn't really spoiled that. But yeah, I thought that they did so much of those. What I really liked about that scene you mentioned under the bed, sometimes the best jump scares, they're not really jump scares. They're showing you exactly what they're going to do. And then they do it. And it's just a matter of like, you're sitting there going, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. When's it going to happen? And when is it going to, oh, there it is. And it's like, she's looking under the bed. She turns, she looks under another part of the bed. And it's like, what we expect is she's not going to see anything under the bed, and then the camera's going to pan up and something will be behind her. And what this movie does is like she's looking under the bed and then something comes from under the bed and it's like, oh shit, like it. So I feel like that's something that, like, again, like Derrickson and Cargill have been making horror movies now for 15 to 20 years, and they have really mastered effective jump scares.
Right.
I feel like they do the jump scare better almost than like James Wan. Like James Wan kind of made it his thing with The Conjuring, where like the camera will just pan up and, oh my god, there's, Bathsheba, holy shit. And or like the clap game in the closet, right? I feel like Derrickson and Cargill
Uh-oh. Danny's getting a phone call or something. All right. Derrickson. Oh, he's back. Derrickson and Cargill, what?
yeah. I feel like they just have the jump scare down. Like they and to the point where it doesn't even feel cliche. It feels like real, it feels earned. Uh so we're like 50 minutes in. Here's my question that I want to ask you. What direction, if any, would you like to see for a continuation of this franchise. Because I was actually having a conversation with somebody at Brooklyn Horror Film Festival about Black Phone 2 and what we would like to maybe see if and when they would make a third one. So
Sure.
I'm interested to hear what you would say to that.
Yeah. That's a great question. And I would say you've talked about how Finn and Gwen are like the heart of these movies. So I'm going to say something controversial. I feel like Black Phone 3 and possible other sequels should actually move away from them and introduce new characters because essentially the grabber is the thing, right? The grabber is the Freddy. He's the Jason, right? So we need to keep him around. So I would say that it becomes that someone else like that has this kind of psychic gift uncovers the grabber somehow. Like somehow the grabber is awakened from his like underwater frozen prison, and he starts terrorizing new people, and they kind of have to figure out what's going on there. Because I feel like this movie really brings Gwen's and Finn's story to a close. So it would almost feel like it would like cheapen it to bring them back yet again with the grabber yet again. I bet you're gonna say the opposite of me though, right?
It is hilarious how 180 I am from you on this. I am done with the grabber. I think
Okay, get rid of the grabber. Okay.
so because here's my logic. The grabber was a human serial killer who Finn killed, and
Yeah.
then he was a back from hell serial supernatural killer that Gwen helps defeat. And to me, there's not much else you can do with the grabber now that he's been killed as a human and he's been killed as a ghost. So it's like, so what else is there? Whereas you do have this great dynamic of Finn and Gwen. They're also quickly approaching adulthood where let's say they make another movie 3 years down the line, it's 1985, right?
Yeah.
Finn
Good
is
deal.
going to be 21. She's going to be 18, 19 years old. If you keep these two actors around, I think you can almost turn this into like, I don't want to say Ghostbusters kind of thing because I don't want it to become comical in any way, but I feel like they can be like ghost hunter type characters that like they people go to them when they have a problem. People come to them and it can almost become like where instead of I just brought up The Conjuring, right? Instead of the Warrens, this married couple who are brought in to fight demons, it's a brother and sister, a young brother and sister who are brought in by other members of the community, or maybe they go out to a different place and it's like, LA 1985 or New York 1985. And, do you have a supernatural hotline kind of thing, and they get involved in other people's supernatural situations. And I just, for me, and I said this in my short review, the thing that works the best about these two movies is Mason Timms and Madeline McGraw and the chemistry that they have together on camera as brother and sister. Ethan Hawke is great, and the grabber is a cool character. I just don't know what else is left for him to do. Like the thing with Freddy was that Freddy established from the first movie he can get you in your dreams and he can kill you in ways that they're their own set pieces. And that became basically the plot of the franchise was just like, how is Freddy going to kill you in your dreams? He's going to turn you into a walking puppet. He's going to slam your head into a television. He's going to turn you into a cockroach and squish you in a roach motel. Like every movie, it became something else. And Obviously, also Freddie went way too deep with the one-liners and everything else. I don't know where the grabber goes from here. He's been killed twice in 2 movies by the same 2 people. Um, first living, now dead. I don't know what else that character has to do. And like this felt like the one tie he had back to the real world, those the souls of those frozen children, it's now gone. So I don't know where else to go with that character. I love the siblings and I would follow them into another movie. I think they could do a lot of fun things with those 2 characters. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny is that probably a Black Phone 3 is going to be neither of our 2 ideas, which our 2 ideas are polar opposites. So, like, it'll probably be something in the middle where it'll be the 2 siblings and then the grabber's back yet again. That's probably what it'll be.
Yeah.
But I think once we start fantasy booking and stuff and we're going to hit the hour mark, that's probably the sign that we've kind of come full circle in our review. I know that there's more stuff we could talk about, but we actually have to fucking record more today, too. We're going to be talking with David Weiner, friend of the channel, who is talking about In Search of Darkness, 1995 through 1999. Yeah. So, I mean, it's always a good time when David Weiner comes on. Danny basically like plugged everything from at the beginning of the show, so you can just go
Brooklyn
check
Horror
out
Film Festival. Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Check out Q&A with Tina Romero and the whole cast of Queens of the Dead, and Ernest Dickerson, and talking about Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight for 30 minutes. Awesome dude. Told me that I was wearing my Prince of Darkness John Carpenter movie t-shirt, and he twice told me that it was Carpenter's most underrated movie, and he loved it. So thank you, Ernest Dickerson.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. So, we at the Last Cast, we don't Dickerson around. We give you the content that you want, so make sure that you like and subscribe. And Danny and I will see you guys. We'll grab y'all by the movie fandom real soon.